Well, let's talk a little bit about what's to come. Maybe throw in some spoilers here, but we saw the Harvest Festival arc pretty much ended. So what is the second half of the season going to be about?
Well, I can talk about this now because you've all seen it. It's always hard to discuss it if people haven't seen it. But the festival is a big success, and the second half of the season is sort of about what happens to a woman who's the second in control of the parks department in a medium-sized town when she almost single-handedly pulls off this massive thing. And her profile is sort of raised a little bit, like people who were, it's not like the governor or anything, but people like within the government who sort of take notice, and her profile begins to kind of increase a little bit. So that's her sort of professional arc, is what's the aftermath and what happens to someone when they have a big success. And then there's, of course, a personal arc, too, which is that, she's had a kind of tunnel vision about the Harvest Festival for so long that I think she's probably been a little bit blind to the fact that Ben is pretty obviously kind of into her. And once the project is over, that starts to maybe dawn on her a little bit. And so they begin to kind of, they begin to like tap dance around each other. And that personal arc plays out for the whole rest of the year.
What about April and Andy? What's their journey like? Engagement maybe by the end of this?
Well, their design of this relationship in our minds was like, these are two pretty young people who are kind of, they're kind of morons a little bit. And like, in this episode, the whole thing almost comes crashing down because April says, "I love you," and Andy says, "That's awesome sauce." And high fives her, which is not the most romantic thing you can do in that moment. So, the design of it from the writer's perspective was like, these are like young, kind of impetuous people, and they kind of have a roller coaster. They're on a roller coaster, is the simplest way to put it. And they like each other a lot, and so they're kind of clinging to the outside of the roller coaster as it whips around the track.
Would you agree that his character has changed the most from the beginning? It seems like at first he was, sort of this guy who was mooching off of Anne, wasn't really actually a nice guy at all. It seems now that he's just this lovable buffoon. And would you agree that that's sort of, he has evolved the most?
I'd love to hear you talk about that, Chris.
Oh.
Who did you think that was pointing?
I didn't know.
Yeah, Chris, I'll take this.
Yeah.
Andy met a man named Ron Swanson. And now he has much better manners.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. It sums it up. I think I met Ron, and here's the thing: is like. And you were asked the question, who's the most like their characters? And the thing is we're all sitting, except for these two, we're all sitting up here. We're actors, and we're doing this show, and people talk about the improv. But the thing is this is not our medium. It's the writers and it's the creators of the show that created these characters. So people ask me about my character, but it's not really mine. It's kind of ours. And the reason that it went from Andy being kind of like a dickhead is I think that maybe that's what they thought originally. And for whatever reason, I always get auditions to play the dickhead. It's like, oh, we need the douche dickhead. Let's get Chris in here. And then I go in and I'm like, oh, play, And then as it evolved and week after week, these characters are allowed to evolve because you're writing a new script every week. And so then they were like, I don't know, maybe looked at me and they're like, hey, he's actually not that much of a dickhead. Like, let's make the character a little, let's draw from certain things that we see in Chris to make Andy. And I think that's the same thing with all of us, like the wood shop that is Ron Swanson's wood shop on the show is actually Nick's real wood shop that he has here in LA. And, I think, didn't Adam, didn't you bankrupt a town when you were